This is episode 64, as in the 1964 Civil Rights Act that they're trying to roll back.
To boycott or not to boycott? That is the question.
I'm really excited because we're going to have Leslie Jones on in just a few minutes.
That has nothing to do with me.
I would implore us to figure out what our demands look like in this very critical time, not just of brands, not just of entities, nonprofits, etc., but also of this administration and also of the Congress.
I always say this, all the people who say if I was alive during the civil rights movement, I would have. Whatever you're doing right now is the thing you would have been doing then.
What you bring to the table, as Jay-Z says, I'm a businessman.
We're just too complacent, and we've paid for our convenience with our democracy.
I think the leader of Black folks is, drumroll, you got to watch the mini pod to find out.
Until you appreciate, you will not graduate.
Give y'all 2 minutes to go and vote for us on NAACP Image Awards. You can vote at NAACPimageawards.net. Find us and vote for us en masse. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome.
Welcome home, y'all. This is episode 64, as in the 1964 Civil Rights Act that they're trying to roll back. But this is episode 64 of Native Land Pod. I am kicking us off. I'm your host, Tiffany Cross, along with my other hosts, Angela Rye and Andrew Gillum. And we got a packed show today, y'all. What's going on? What y'all got?
Well, we got a special guest. That's a one great thing.
Yes. Do you want to say
The
who?
one and only Leslie Jones.
We got Miss Leslie Jones, y'all.
The comedian,
I didn't want to give it away. I was going to let you
Leslie
talk.
Jones. Yes, we're excited because, we typically have guests during our live shows. But you guys follow us. You saw Leslie was like, let me be a guest. And we were like, yes, thrilled to have you. So we'll be having guests on. So this is our first show. No, it's not, because we had Reverend Jamal.
We have Pastor.
Yeah, what am I talking about?
But this is our first time virtually, to be fair to
That's
this is
true.
our first time virtually having guests.
That's true.
So,
That's true. So excited about that.
Yeah.
What you
That's
got?
not true either, Andrew?
No.
Andrew's face-
I mean, hey, shout out to the first, whatever it is.
But it's some type of first. This is
There's a
the
first
only
or something.
inauguration that matters.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
That's
In this calendar year. And speaking of this calendar year, it's 2025, and also Project 2025 is well underway. Yesterday, by the time y'all see this, 2 days ago, I did an executive order conversation with our NLP audience. We're calling them side pods or solo pods.
Side pieces.
I
was going to say, depending on if you ask Andrew or the rest of us, it's a side pod. And I think that what we also will get into every show is what is happening from Project 2025 that the administration is pushing through. So that will come out for sure in today's show.
I love it. Andrew,
Nice.
what you got?
Well, you all know, I guess as an extension of Project 2025, Trump racist, January 6th insurrectionists / racist bigots, keeping with the theme, and what's motivating this administration and his supporters, it seems, is coming after people of color, and in this case, very specifically Black folk, in this withdrawing of support for diversity and inclusion in the workplace, government, non-profit, and for-profit. I want to assess to boycott or not to boycott. That is the question. I look forward to getting into it with y'all.
I know a lot of you guys have asked about that. Another question that we get asked a lot is, what do we do? So many people ask in our audience, but also in my personal space. Just our personal friends have been asking, what do we do? Angela, I know you get this question probably the most, because people even ask me, can you ask Angela? And it'd be about something very specific or something very broad. So I just want to talk about that and what that means for our audience and how we can better handle that question and how people can better frame their question. So,
and you say, what can we do in response to what's happening? Is that
everything?
Everybody knows.
Everything.
Everybody knows right now. We say, what do we do? That we are in an existential crisis.
Yeah.
And how do we respond? I want to say this before we run out of the rundown. Tiff will laugh at this. Andrew, for the first time, I finally got called Tiffany in an Instagram comment yesterday. So I'm also just being how she's always like, people are calling me Angela. I was like, that doesn't happen to me. They were like, Tiffany, I just love you. Can you? And I was like, I just am not Tiffany. She ain't even in here.
I love it.
Where you
I
sitting?
love it.
But anyway,
they do that
I love
all
the
the
stand-in.
time.
I get it all the time.
At some point, I'm going to be called Andrew, I'm sure.
I know.
Like, Andrew, you know.
Or Bakari.
I keep growing my hair.
Especially because today, because look at my shirt.
I see that. I'm going to defend you. Loving it.
Y'all are
Yes.
Don't show me up,
representing.
I was just thinking that I would support Black-owned brands and historically Black colleges since don't nobody else want to.
Okay,
Bet.
exactly. Speaking of, let's get into it.
Pod. Thank you so much for welcoming home each and every week when I listen to you guys. My name is Dr. Amber Brown, and I have a question. I know that Donald Trump is constantly putting out these executive orders that are very harmful and very impactful in a negative way towards minorities, especially brown and Black communities. And so I think just recently he decided to stop letting federal agencies celebrate Black History Month. And my question is, like, why are Black Americans just allowing this to happen? Like, why can't we stand up and say, no, this is not what we're going to do? Like, stop giving our money to companies and organizations and platforms that do not care about us. When that happens, I feel like they can be defeated and show that, no, you can't do this to us. Like, why are we allowing this? Do you have any thoughts? Thanks.
Y'all, so Amber's question is really hitting on what a lot of folks in our community are talking about right now. We've had conversations in my household. I'm sure y'all have with family and other friends around, how do we continue to give our money away to corporations who at this time are backing away from us and doing so in such a public way? As you all know, and we talked about in the rundown, some of the more patronized brands by our community are looking like they are betraying us. And it's hitting very, very close to home. I'll start with the fact that Target just recently announced that they were ending their DEI work, their emphasis on recruiting more minority-led businesses into their profile. We'll talk more about that, but I just wanted to quickly mention some of the companies who have joined Target in stepping back from our community and supporting diversity. Amazon, Walmart, Meta, McDonald's, Ford, Harley Davidson, Lowe's, John Deere, Tractor Supply, Brown Foreman, and the list actually is continuing to grow. I think part of the good news is, y'all, is that the list of companies who are saying they are sticking with us is also growing. Some of those are Apple, Costco, Ben and Jerry's, EIF, Beauty, JP Morgan. And again, that list is continuing to grow. But folks, man, this is RJ and I were having a conversation about the Target piece because it's one of the first places we were able to go to find Black History Month shirts that fit our kids, that they could wear to school and felt real proud about it. And we also, of course, as y'all know, have friends who are on the merchandising side. In fact, why don't we just, before we get into our conversation, just quickly throw to just one of those examples of vendors, Black vendors, who are part of Target's national portfolio.
Yeah, this is Melissa Butler. She's the owner of the Lit Bar, which is carried in Target. Let's take a listen.
I've seen a lot of people like, this is why we need our own Target, or this is why we need our own Walmart, which is true. But do you know why we don't have our own Target? Do you know why we don't have our own Walmart? Because we barely shop Black brands. We're constantly competing to tell people to shop the Lit Bar over Charlotte Tilbury, or the Lit Bar over MAC, or the Lit Bar over NYX or ELF, or et cetera, et cetera. So the reason why we don't have these like powerhouse brands is because our support is finicky. In 2020, when it was cool to shop Black-owned businesses, we all got an inflated sense of support for about 3 months. And then by the end of the year, we had all this extra inventory. Some people had hired a bunch of people. And guess what? It wasn't cool to shop Black anymore. But again, the reason why we don't have the control that y'all want us to have is because we are not keeping our dollars within our community in the first place. So now when somebody decides that they don't want to support our community, we're all up in arms. Well, we've created this.
So that's one perspective, y'all. I'm curious to know, ladies, how are you all thinking about some of the upcoming I think boycotts that are pretty well predictable. Reverend Al Sharpton has announced, along with his committee, that there'll be a strategic list of companies that will be first targeted. No pun intended. And then there's been an announcement that February 1st would be the start of a nationwide boycott of Target. I'm curious to know how you all feel about that, especially in the context of these business owners.
I I was so grateful to our friend Reverend Mark Thompson. In our feed, we have a Black media feed, and he said, and I don't think I'm out of line. We normally don't share out of here, but this is a synopsis he gave us from the letter from the Birmingham jail, which we know is from Reverend Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He said that there are 4 steps that you take in a direct action against any entity. And the first is the collection of the evidence, which I think that we mostly have. These companies have come out now and have said where they are rescinding, where they are retracting. I do think it's important that we distinguish Amazon, and we can talk about that today or another time. 2, negotiation, which normally are your list of demands. I have not seen a list of any clear demands. The third is spiritual purification. As you all know, Dr. King had a commitment to nonviolent resistance. Some people believe in something else, but there is that. And then the fourth is direct action, which are your protests, your boycotts, etc. Now, what I think is important in this day and age is I think we've gotten very comfortable with our ability to blow things up. And I don't mean in a literal sense, I mean in a figurative sense. We can say, like, we're going to take this person, that we're canceling this person, this brand is canceled, blah, blah, but we don't have no type of strategic plan. Reverend Al has talked about them doing a 90-day review and then selecting 2 companies from that. There are more than 2 companies that are basically assaulting our community, trying to take our money, but not respect us, not honor us. And I think that we do need to be in conversation with the vendors at these brands to figure out what does support look like for them if these boycotts are indeed going to happen. What we should not do is subject our friends, our family, brands that we care about to friendly fire, because people are going to be real hot about if they can't get Boss Lady no more. They're going to be real hot about if they can't get something from Tabitha, whether it's her book or some product she has in Target. And I think that we are at a time, a very critical juncture, where when we make enough noise, when we make our demands clear, and we are on one accord about it, there is a response. And I'll give you an example that's very timely right now. Yesterday, the night before, the Trump administration put out a memo from the Office of Management and Budget, which is what I talked about on the live show yesterday, which was essentially a federal funding freeze. Today, as a result of the uproar, as a result of the clear information we gathered, as a result of our requirements about what our expectations are as taxpayers of the federal government, that federal funding freeze has been rescinded. It's been rescinded. A judge stopped them yesterday, but today, just now, breaking news while we're recording, it's been rescinded. Stuff happens when we move. Things change when we stand together. And so I would implore us to figure out what our demands look like in this very critical time, not just of brands, not just of entities, nonprofits, et cetera, but also of this administration and also of the Congress, particularly those representatives who are aligned with our beliefs. If we stand on one accord, I believe that fascism can be beat. So I wanted to use that example because I think it's timely and it's an approach that works universally. Sure, our methods can change. We don't have to do as Dr. King did in the 50s and the 60s. As Tiff so aptly pointed out, it's the 64th episode for the 1964 Civil Rights Act because we're trying to preserve it. What does preservation, survival, and abundance look like for us in this day and age? And I think that is what we need to wrestle with and get on the same page about.
Well, I want to thank Dr. Brown for her question. Appreciate you listening and tuning in and taking the time to drop a video. I do take a bit of an issue with the framing, and I think it's important for us to know Black folks ain't sitting around letting anything happen. We have never done that, and I can see why some people may think that. And Dr. Brown, you're not the only person I've heard say that. I've heard so many people say that, and I want you to know it is not true. We have never been a docile, lay down and let it happen people. We have always, we damn near freed ourselves in this country. You know, we did free ourselves in this country. And we are a a liberated people who will fight to hold and protect that liberation. I know a lot of what you see, the imagery you see on the very antiquated echo chambers of cable news shows like there are two equal forces fighting each other because so often our truth makes them uncomfortable. So that's not what gets highlighted. Our resistance makes them uncomfortable. That's why you only hear about Nat Turner as if that was the only slave rebellion, when in truth, there were hundreds of people who fought to the death. And so if I can offer some hope, there are people all across this country right now, as we sit here and speak, who are activating, who are organizing, who are trying to figure it out just like you. And I think we have to at least keep that hope in mind. Don't believe their truth about us. What we need in this moment is Black folks who believe in Black folks enough to not believe the bullshit they put out there about us. So, and you all hear us on this podcast. You've watched the work that Angela does. You've seen the work that Andrew does, the work that we do here together to try to make sure that people are informed. And we can't do it all by ourselves. So I think that's an important distinction to make. We are not standing by letting anything happen.
I feel that. I also feel what Amber is pointing out. If I were to compare the Trump administration 1 to the Trump administration 2 and how the country seemed to respond, right now in this moment, the pushback feels pretty vacant, pretty void. And from just my own personal lived experience and conversations, that I've had and just things that I've observed, it feels like this man is browbeating us. We are catching whiplash left and right, trying to keep up with the impact of these executive orders. Angela's breaking news on the recension of one. We saw them step back on the Tuskegee Airmen when they had taken that out of the training curriculum for members of the Air Force and the larger military. And so they're hearing something, and it's feeling like we're revving up to show that we are prepared to reckon with you, and you better be prepared to reckon with us if we can square up. But as a country, when we look at the inauguration and we see corporation after corporation after corporation, people who wrote statements following January 6th, cutting ties, we're done with this. This was a reach too far, are now special guests, and everybody's trekking down to Mar-a-Lago to pay homage, to bend the knee. That is, in my experience, pretty, deflating for the opposition. And my response really is twofold. So one, to our leaders, our national leaders,
who are
folks in Congress, folks in the Senate. I mean, these are elected. I'm speaking very specifically on the elected side of this, which is y'all need to clone Mitch McConnell on the left, because I don't know how it is that when Republicans were out of power, they were somehow able to bring the government, the business to a grinding halt. When the president declared war on the Congress by saying he has appropriation power over them, wherein it's given to the Congress in the Constitution of the United States, I would have said we ain't hearing no more nominees for any position in this government until we come to a reckoning on the fact that Congress is the appropriator by Constitution. Why would we go from calling this man out saying that he is creating an illegal act by trespassing on the rights and the responsibilities of Congress through appropriation, and then in the afternoon hold a confirmation hearing for 3, 4, 5 of his nominees? No, sir. We're bringing the Congress to a halt until you recognize this, because this man is willing to roll the dice and take a chance that the same Supreme Court that made him a king when it comes to prosecution and accountability will be the same Supreme Court that will hold him, that will have his back on this fight with Congress around appropriation. And then to the boycotts, just real quick, and I'll be done. And this is to say, the folks in Montgomery did not want to have to disrupt their lives by walking and carpooling to work, to church, to school, to social activities. You have it. When the boycott was announced, it wasn't agreed upon by all Black people in Montgomery. In fact, we know that through protests, practically 10% of us participated in all of the civil rights demonstrations combined during that period of time.
That's a good flag, Andrew.
Mhm.
So we're not going to be able to get everybody sign on and buy in through ballot or them expressing their opinions. But the damn thing after a year's time worked. It was inconveniencing. It was mind-boggling. It was frustrating. It was angering for us. But they stuck to it. There was an announcement. The plan was laid. We said we are not getting back on this back on this bus in that indignity to be suffered until y'all come to heal. And they bought Montgomery to heal. I say that to say I've seen people texting and me and my wife, just reading some of this stuff. Folks saying, well, we can't do this because we got black brands. Well, guess what? We spent a couple of days just looking at how we can get access to those black brands outside of Target. Is there a direct distribution from a provider directly to my house?
Yeah.
And yes, it existed for a good number of them.
Mm-hmm.
Target was a distribution opportunity, but there was also a direct way to get to the vendor to get what it is that you wanted, so you could support them. So all I have to say is, where there is a will, there is a way. And if it isn't making you uncomfortable, if it isn't disrupting your pattern, if it isn't inconveniencing, mind-boggling, mind-blowing, upsetting, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
But these folks are never coming to us with respect until we use our dollars to say, hell no. If you don't respect me enough to employ me and to employ the qualified brothers and sisters who are putting product into this street, then you don't deserve my money, period.
Angela, let me ask you, because Andrew's making this point about our leaders
that.
in Congress. And I have to be honest, I don't know who our leaders are. And Andrew, respectfully, I definitely am not looking at elected officials as our leaders these days, because I think they are there to uphold an institution that, quite frankly, needs to be disrupted. At this point, I think I'm ready to dismantle everything. But Andrew, you do make a legitimate point that so many other people have said. What are Democrats doing? So, Angela, you heard Andrew suggest, well, they need to just halt government. Is that possible? One, do the Democrats have the power to do that? And two, is the Congressional Black Caucus large enough in number where they can halt legislation? Most of them are in the House, so I don't know how they would halt the Senate confirmations. And as we're so disaggregated in Congress, and as the Democratic Party is so disaggregated, you have white people there in the Democratic Party who are, representatives in Congress who want to uphold the institution of white supremacy. So it's not in their interest to bring it to a halt. All the Republicans were united in upholding white supremacy. And on the Democratic side, you don't have that. So what power do Democrats have?
So first, I just want to say, we didn't know what our mini pod was going to be yet. I really hope our mini pod today can be the first part of your question, which is, I don't even know who our leaders are.
Okay,
and you
let's
said
do
you're
that.
certainly not looking to to members of Congress. So I'm dying to know who your leaders are. That is a cold tease. So y'all just know. And also, since we're talking about teases, before I answer this question, I'm already off topic. You guys, we have a really great interview with Leslie Jones at the end of this show. Make sure you stay and hear that interview. So the CBC does have the numbers, but more importantly, the Congressional Black Caucus has always had the conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what is incumbent upon all of us as Black people right now is to move as if we are the conscience of whatever space we occupy. I love what Andrew said, because it's such a good reminder. You guys know my memory sucks. But it was such a good reminder when Andrew said only 10% of the people participated in the boycott practice in Montgomery. I was watching this clip. It was Dr. Claude Anderson recently, and this man was critiquing a clip of Dr. Claude on Breakfast Club. He mentioned that there was a Black man, I believe it was a preacher, I don't want to get this wrong, who offered up buying our own buses during the time of the boycott. And I had never heard this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story. I had never heard this story. Dr. King et al. Didn't want that as a part of the strategy. But what would have happened if this preacher would have just proceeded and said, well, ain't but 10% of y'all, so us 10% over here are going to work on this. We are so much more powerful when we play our role, when we play our position. Everybody not going to go to the boycott and the protest, and that's fine. You still going to reap the benefits. I wish you would participate. But what I'm saying is, ultimately, your obligation is to find your lane and occupy that well. It is to dominate that. It is the person that writes the best should be doing our demands. The person that articulates should be speaking our demands. The person that can go and negotiate and isn't the rebel riser should be negotiating our demands. And then we have to figure out what next. But when I think about our members, the CBC was never monolithic, and it's definitely not now. You said you don't know who our leaders are, but the main leader we have is a Black man for the first time. We have the first ever Black Democratic leader. And Hakeem Jeffries has, frankly, especially this week, as far as I'm concerned, been killing it. They raised hell about the OMB memo, and they saw rewards. There is a day of action that they're planning the day this podcast drops, where they're engaging all types of organizations with different interests to ensure that this administration knows that it can't run over anybody. Now, I'm going to tell you, the messaging been a little flawed. And I've said this to as many of them as I can. It's not cohesive. And if enough people, whether they're influencers or athletes or they're political commentators, enough people have said they're not clear about what the Democrats' path forward is, I think that they do need to say, you know, this is a president that we didn't expect to see in this role again. We have been on our heels. We were on our heels of Project 2025. We talked about it, but we didn't plan for it. Now, here are our plans. Here's how we're going to respond. We have Lisa Blunt Rochester. We have Cory Booker. We have Angela Also Brooks. We have Raphael Warnock. And we have people who are allies to them that could stop cloture in the Senate, who could say, no, you're not going to have unanimous consent to proceed with these nominees. A lot of folks have said they could push back on the folks who he keeps trying to nominate who represent, because they wrote the chapters in Project 2025, including his OMB nominee who's not even in yet. That was the interim that caused all that hell yesterday, right? So there are things that they can do in that regard as well. We can go on and on about the ways, but I just don't want us to give hope. And we should always remember that our most sacred obligation to these members of Congress is not to expect them to move without our demands. We should be telling them what we want to see, what we need to see, whether it's on our movement building, it's on messaging from them, or it's on legislation that we need them to pass or block.
Angela and Tiff, can I just borrow just to
really
bump in
quickly,
one
Andrew,
more
before
second?
you do, really quickly, just so our viewers know, OMB is the Office of Management and Budget. So when Angela references the OMB memo, it is the memo announcing the funding freeze. So anytime you hear OMB, that's what that is, Office of Management and
Correct.
Budget.
Sorry, thank you for
And
that,
if you
Tiffany.
tune in
Just to
yesterday,
say,
I said that 92 times.
I just want to give an example of what a member of the United States Senate could do when I said grind his confirmations to a halt. Tommy Tuberville, a U.S. senator, last year refused to confirm any nominees to the military brass, brought it to a screeching halt for months, criticized by Republicans and Democrats alike for the tactic. A single member of the U.S. Senate, which we got, 47, 48 Democrats, whatever, that are in the United States Senate, one of them can grind that body to a complete and total halt. Now, again, I don't think you go nuclear on every fight that we have with this administration. I actually think they ought to have levels. There ought to be levels of urgency. This one, we just getting the people to make calls. This time, we're going and we're putting our best communicators out there, and they're going to bring the message into American people's homes. Third level, when we at, level red, then we are shutting shit down. And what I am terrified of right now is that they have been told by consultants that because Donald Trump is going to do everything and have us riveting every which way, we have to hold our fire for just the right fight. Well, that is nonsense. If Donald Trump is dropping shit every single day that is impacting our lives, why do we leave him the zone to make his message known and nobody is there with a counter? And I don't mean nobody, but I just mean in a coordinated, strong, impactful, and strategic way, getting out there and fighting this man. You meet him right where he is.
Well, I like
it. It doesn't take the right fight. Every fight that is deriving us of our livelihood is the right fight.
I like the idea of doing a mini pod on who are our leaders. I think that's definitely worth a discussion. Some of the things you all are speaking to about the fight and how to frame the fight, I think it gets us to the conversation around what do we do. And so we do have a viewer question who poses a specific question around what native land can do. So let's take a listen to that question, and then I have thoughts on the other side.
Good morning, Native Land Pod and Pod fans. My question is, for right now, that we already know we got 4 years of this everyday spin cycle that will be the second round of the Trump administration. How can Native Land Pod help individuals understand better how to get involved with their local and state government? Because basically the feds have already said they ain't gonna fool with us. So if y'all could y'all provide some insight to help us out? Watch for the hook.
I love
Did you
that
say
question.
watch for the hook?
Yes.
At the end, with the cues, they in the building.
Yes. Shout out to Omega Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We appreciate your question, brother. But I love that question because I like that he's focused on where can we go? What can we do? But I get asked this question all the time. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? This question is a little different because he's saying, okay, the federal government is going to be bulldozing ahead. What can we do at the state and local level? And as I've said many times before, a lot of these policies began at the state and local level. A lot of these shitty policies bubble up from your Republican controlled state legislatures. These billionaires, they are smart, they are strategic. They start placing people on your school boards because that is a launching pad for them to get into Congress. They start funding campaigns as a state representative, a state senator. So some of this stuff has already happened, but this idea of, my co-host may disagree with me, so I want to hear you guys' thoughts. This idea of somebody guide us, somebody point us in the right direction, and we can get more into this on the mini pod when it comes to our leadership. But what I've started asking people is, well, what are you doing? Because I'll say I am not an all-seeing guru where I can say, oh, okay, well, here's what you need to wake up tomorrow and do. I'll ask people, well, what is it that you care about? What is the thing that's impacting you and your family most, you and your community most? And then there's usually something you can do in that capacity. There's some sort of resource you can find. Our good sister, Jateka Edie, does the Win with Black Women call every Sunday. Where it's thousands of women from across the country organizing. That's just a step. Because some people have said to me, well, I'm not the person to bring it together. I'm the person to give me my marching orders and I go out and do it. And so my pushback, I always say this, all the people who say if I was alive during the civil rights movement, I would have. Whatever you're doing right now is the thing you would have been doing then.
Mm-hmm.
If you doom scrolling through Instagram, that's what you would have been doing during the civil rights movement. If you are binge watching 12 hours of TV, that's what you would have been doing during the civil rights movement. The time is now. So when it comes to these local government, I think it's a lot easier to navigate local government. And this speaks to the example of Black folks ain't just sitting around letting something happen. It's a lot. You can get 20 of your friends at your house and have a state senator over and confront them and talk to them. Say, I got 20 people. We all got $20 each to donate to your campaign, or we ain't got nothing. We got bodies to move. I want you to come to my house and hear what we care about. You can do that at the city council, school board, state rep, state senator. And even a representative from the governor's office, like make noise and be heard. So that's just my thought. But I'm curious from you guys, because I know you all get that question all the time. And what do you say when individuals ask you that?
I want to defer to Andrew, and I'm also going to add an extra layer onto this question for you, AG. You started such a tremendous organization that I don't think gets enough credit when you were at PFA, which is People for the American Way. Andrew created an entity called the Young Elected. I know. I'm about to answer my question, damn it.
I've had you there plenty of times. This is true.
I got it. The Young Elected Officials Network. And it was so powerful because they harnessed the collective energy and power of young elected officials in various capacities throughout the country. Many of them are still in elected office. Mm-hmm. Sadly, he's going to be mad that I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. Sadly, one of them went on to become a turncoat. That is Kristen Sinema. Kristen Sinema left, and we don't know what happened, or we pray that the Lord brings her back home to her right mind and to her better politics. But in the meantime, Andrew, I do think that things like that, where you're not only strategizing on policies that matter and that would be impactful for communities, but also what roads lead to next positions for these folks, are mission critical. Can you please talk about the importance of folks being engaged and running for office themselves? Like, it's so hard to be in the game when you standing on the sidelines barking orders, but you're not there on the field.
That's
I'm one of
real.
those. I'm
And
gonna
when
stay
you
on the
barking
sidelines,
them,
but
a
carry
lot
on.
of times you're not barking them to the right people.
Yeah.
So you're
That's
kicking up
good.
dust. But I will say this, because it's such a it's a good question, a profound question, and also an accessible response and answer, y'all. It is not rocket science. I know it feels that way, but you can't eat an elephant whole. You eat it piece by piece by piece. Angela earlier referenced, we all have a role to play. The first role all of us ought to play is we need to lock into our cell phone the district office number for our member of Congress and both of our United States senators. I understood the question, but I do not concede that the federal government is out of our reach simply because
Me
the
neither.
Republicans are in control. That's when the right woke up. When we were in control, started turning local offices and began going after Barack Obama and the Democratic Congress on the House and the Senate side and throwing them out at the midterm elections. This is go time right now. We are not excused out of Washington, D.C. because we are the majority and they still got our money up there. And we ought to be telling them where those dollars ought to go. So lock in those numbers, because we ought to be making those calls every time the word comes down. We hear that they're doing something. Y'all, I know it sounds overplayed, but I'm telling you right now, I've been an elected official. I've been on the receiving end of what a massive response looks like and what a dull response looks like. And when the dull response comes in, I can tell you it had no impact whatsoever on the way I was going to vote on an issue, left or right, center, whatever.
Give
But when
an
it was a
example,
huge
AG.
response, so, for instance, a zoning issue, right? A gas station wants to go in on the end of the corner of this neighborhood. The neighborhood says, we don't need no gas station. We need a grocery store. Then they organize and they start sending letters. They call my office. They left messages. We are against this. We are against this. Even if no grocery store is out there to be had right now, we believe you ought to sit on the land until there is one that is ready for us, right? And when my staff came in and said, Mayor, the phones are ringing off the hook today about this thing, I knew that I couldn't be cavalier. I had to deepen into it. I had to know what I needed to know so that however I arrived at my decision, I could explain it. It was reasoned and it could stand the test of time. So when we choose to say, oh, both my senators are Republicans, and so they're not going to hear me anyway, light that line up anyway, because their interns and their staff are going to report to them. Sir, we got a lot of calls on this. And guess what? That member of Congress is going to ask. That elected official is going to ask, hey, are we hearing much feedback from the district about such and such?
Yep. And you can call 202-224-3121 and request to speak to your U.S. House of Representatives member or your senator.
Get that
And
one
if
more
you
time.
didn't catch that, Google.
Well, give it one more time.
202-224-3121. That's not how you reach Andrew, but that is how you reach your members of Congress.
That is a shuffleboard. You call it, you tell them who you want, and they'll send
Not
it. They'll
a
patch you.
shuffleboard.
What is it called? A something board.
A switchboard.
Switchboard. You see, look at me. Okay. No, I'm not gonna
here
list
playing
out
games.
everything at this time, y'all. But I will say, the accountability piece here, when we're out of power, quote, is everything. We cannot go silently into that good night.
Yeah.
If they are coming for us, they need to hear us in response. The other thing, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes energy. But this is our time where we need to be in our local communities registering people to vote. And not just registering them to vote, activating them around the issues in their neighborhood and in our communities that we can impact. If 10 of us went down to the city hall meeting tonight and had a word to say, I guarantee you your mayor and your commissioners, council members will hear you, because we don't get 10 people at a meeting on a single issue ever. And when they do show up, it's a big A deal. Okay?
Yeah.
So I guess I should say this. It ain't that hard, y'all. It does require some work, but everything I've said to this point is within our touch. It's within our reach.
They want us to believe that it's hard. They want us to believe that they're inaccessible, that they're
It's
untouchable.
complicated.
Yes. Government lingo is so complicated. And it does, I think there's a concerted effort to not have intelligent sounding Black folks who can actually take government lingo and make it very digestible, very accessible. The Beltway media is very incestuous, the way they talk about these things, and they don't make it very accessible to the masses. I know we have to wrap up soon because I'm excited to get to the mini pod about Angela's question.
Leaders.
And I'm really excited because we're going to have Leslie Jones on in just a few minutes. And, look, there's a lot of serious things happening in the world, but Black joy is defiance.
Yeah.
And, it's okay sometimes to have a light moment. But this is the question I want to ask you guys, because it's something that I think so many of us are struggling with. There are some who believe we're going to have to hurt for us to that is the thing that's going to activate people. And I am struggling with this because I do feel, I feel like, you know what, y'all got it. This is what the majority of the country voted for, or the majority of the voting population voted for. Not even that, because he didn't win the popular vote. This is what enough of y'all voted for.
Electoral.
That I want you all to feel the brunt. The challenge
He
is...
didn't win the popular vote?
He didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the popular vote.
No.
Donald Trump, this election, didn't win the popular vote.
Did not win the popular vote. He won the electoral
Since when?
vote.
When did I miss? I remember
He
that
didn't
with
win it
Hillary.
the first time either.
Yeah, he's never won the popular vote.
Clinton. He absolutely won the popular vote.
No, he did
he has
not
never won the
against Hillary
popular
Clinton.
vote. He has never won the popular vote.
I am trying to figure out
Yes,
where
you can
that
have a president of the
that
United
must have
States
changed.
elected
I'm about to,
right.
Of
by
course
a
you
minority of the voters.
Electoral college, but I don't.
Yeah,
I'm
he
about
has
to-
never won the popular
that's
vote.
not right.
So my point with that is the people who did want this, I'm okay with them getting hurt. Like this is what y'all got. Get it. The problem is we are going to be hurt first, and we gonna be hurt worse. And so I'm trying to figure out how to strike that balance. And there are some among us even who say, look, a lot of us are disconnected. We're despondent. We're not paying attention. We're going to have to feel that pain. And that's going to be the thing that activates us. Is there a way to activate people before we feel that pain? And I don't know how to
Tiffany,
do it.
before. We have had enough pain to last us, our progeny, and our children's 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 children.
Yeah.
A lifetime.
Yeah.
So we've experienced the pain, but the truth is it really does in so many ways have to travel up our street, down our block, up our driveway, into the house in order for us to see that this thing is coming apart at the seams.
We have a real quick correction from the news desk from Angela.
I do have a correction. Yeah, because you guys, we can never be associated with misinformation. I know y'all is pained from this election. I was too. Y'all are incorrect, like woefully. Donald Trump received 77,301,997 votes. Kamala Harris received 75,017,626 votes. The election total in this election in 2024 was over 155 million voters. Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris by more than 2.3 million votes. So I was like, I know I'm not this crazy.
I
My
stand
memory's
corrected.
bad.
I think what I was thinking was the 2020, what was the last
2020? No, 2016, sorry.
No, 2020 and 2016, how woefully underperforming we were as voters, as the electorate. So in essence, being he had less popular vote than the 2020 or the 2016. And of course, he didn't have the popular vote in 2016. Hillary had the popular vote.
He won the popular vote by the smallest margin of any president. But yes, we are incorrect. Andrew and I were incorrect.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, how am I?
I still want to be obedient to
crazy.
my belief that the man is a fraud.
You can't. I'm going to tell you right now, and I might end up being more misinformation than y'all. I still am not convinced this man won this election. I don't have no proof. I just got a gut feeling. So we can
there
leave it
are
at
so
that.
many people who feel that way, and that speaks to it though, because it's almost like you would rather believe that than believe that a majority of the people in this country voted for this. And
and a majority of the people didn't, and more people stayed at home.
Right.
Who are registered. More people who are registered stayed at home. So really what we could say is neither one of them won. The couch did, which is the fear the whole time, which is sad. I didn't mean to throw off the whole conversation, but I was like, y'all can't come lie to me today.
I'm glad you corrected that. I think that's important. We should. I want to get to the conversation on leaders. And we have Leslie backstage waiting, so we want to get to her. But I just want to say, I think I hope our people do not have to feel so much pain before being activated. I hope we can start paying more attention, because I don't feel good about letting by watching my people burn. And and there are people among us who are like, that's what it's going to take, because we
No,
don't know.
you said
know?
it. We feel it first and worse.
Yeah.
I hope
and
that's
worse.
wrong.
Yeah.
Because I hope it's wrong, because I feel like our people, if we stop looking at ourselves in the microcosm of the moment, our people have suffered enough.
Yes.
Like, I'm tired of the suffering. I want us to experience abundant joy, not be worried about the scarcity of resources. We shouldn't have to keep suffering to prove a point, especially a point that we're not the ones trying to make.
Mhm.
And I think the thing that's so frustrating and yet beautiful in this moment is we are forced to come to terms with the fact that we are forever inextricably linked, whether we're in the same cultural pocket, in the same, zip code, the same area code, what have you. We are inextricably linked. And so it is imperative that we begin to look out for our neighbors in the same ways that we do for ourselves, whether they are in the highest earning bracket or the lowest earning bracket. We are inextricably linked. That's just the bottom line. So
And
we
when
gotta
they
deal with
attack
that.
one group, they coming for you too. All these people saying,
Period.
oh, well, they getting deported. Who cares? Listen, undocumented immigrants did not vote for this man. They cannot vote. They are victims of this system like a lot of other people. So I don't know.
Despite paying taxes.
Right. They are paying taxes. So,
and their cousins and them who may have voted against them, it is not a sentiment unlike many folks who immigrate to this country. They pull the ladder up behind them.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. We can dig into that another time, because I do think it is worth a deep dive on why it is the sentiment is what it is. But the right has created all of this.
Yeah.
They want to look more right on the right, on the political right side.
I think race has created all of this. Because don't forget, I think race has created all of this. I would love to blame the right, but unfortunately, even when you listen to the rhetoric of of people that we voted for, around the summertime, the rhetoric started sounding very, very conservative around the border and around immigration policy.
Yeah,
there's data behind that. So there was no uptick in migrant crime. But the right introduced this. And so as a result, members of the media and Democratic candidates mentioned the border significantly more. I don't want to give the exact percentage, but it was something like 80% more than they had. So the right is constantly driving the narrative. And that's a challenge. I know we want to bring in Leslie, and I want to get to this conversation about leaders. I'll just tell you, I think the leader of the Black folks is, drum roll, you got to watch the mini pod to find out.
Drum roll.
So,
Black president.
yeah,
you should at least let that thing breathe so it was a good teaser.
It's Michelle Obama.
I know. It was whack. Anyway, while Leslie getting herself together, just give y'all 2 minutes to go and vote for us on NAACP Image Awards. You can vote at NAACP.
Yes.
imageawards.net. I hope that's the right address, but find us and vote for us en masse, please. And when we come back, we will be joined by Miss Leslie Jones.
Yeah.
All right, joining the podcast now is author, comedian, and somewhat of a social commentator, Leslie Jones. We are so thrilled to have you on the show. It's so much happening in your world. I've been seeing you pop up a lot. So I know we have a lot to get into. Thank you so much for joining us. We're happy to have you, sis.
Welcome home.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I watch you and Angela and Andrew all the time.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, I love your pod.
We appreciate. We out here trying to do what we can in this chaos, and it's so much happening, Leslie. And what I have to say, what I appreciate about you is you have always tried to use your platform to either A, make people laugh, or B, speak out about something. I love that you center women and Black women in a lot of the things that you do, and hold the line for us. So we appreciate you for that. I think in this time, we talked a little bit about what do we do. So many people are asking us all the time, what do we do? And on the other side, so many people are checked out. Like, they're just like, I can't. It's too much happening. I'm going to binge something. I'm going to stream something, which uniquely puts entertainers in a spotlight. And so I'm curious what you think the role of Black Hollywood is in this moment, as we're facing assault on every front, from our civil rights to our bodily autonomy, to our finances, to the very infrastructure of the country. What do you think the role of Black Hollywood is there?
Well, first, I feel like we need to realize what's happening through each decade, or it's that we're using less and less percentage of our brain. Like, there's no critical thinking. There's no and you get that through reading books. And okay, it's hard to kind of say this without, I don't want to be offensive or whatever, but
speak the truth.
We had a crack era. You know what I'm saying? We had, there's kids that were born of that like wasn't raised like us, like to have boundaries and critical thinking and think about we have to think about where the mind state of where everybody is, not just Black people, white people, this society, period. We are in the complacent stage right now. Like, people always ask, like, what do we do? What do we do? You know what we have to do. Everybody knows what we have to do. We just too complacent, and we've paid for our convenience with our democracy. You know what I'm saying? We're not, no one's going to stop watching Netflix. No one's going to stop ordering Amazon. We could stop smoking cigarettes for 1 week and shut shit down, but one's going to do that. No one's going to take responsibility for their role in what we have to do until they actually take it serious, because people still are on that, oh, they can't do that. Oh, they can't make that happen. But they are making it happen. And we're sitting here not understanding that we hold the key in our hand. It's us. Millionaires don't have money unless we give them money. You know, and as Black people, we're one of the biggest consumers of this market, and we just uneducated, man. Like, I'm sorry. It really comes down to, whenever I hear anyone say that they're racist or they don't understand DEI, you just uneducated. Because DEI is very simple. No one's saying they're lowering expectations. They're saying they're opening it up to everyone, not just to white people. And if you think that Black people or immigrants are taking your jobs, go look at the test scores. No, it's your white friend that's taking your job. So I'm sorry.
Lindsay, I was going to ask you. So one of the things I think that Tiff was getting at is the role that you see entertainment playing in this particular moment. We know in our history, whether we're talking Harry Belafonte to Dick Gregory, entertainers have always been an essential part of movement building. And you brought up DEI, which for our audience, diversity, equity, and inclusion, Hollywood was one of the first industries hit by folks saying, you know what, we actually are going to retract a little bit on this whole DEI thing. So when you think about what the requirement is, what is your most reasonable service in this time? And what would you challenge your peers to do? Yeah,
I challenge them to, when they go on a set, which is something I do. How many Black people here? Like, you're not going to give me favorite nations. That's what they want to use all of it. Because can't no white woman do my hair. I've had white hairdressers on set say to me, oh, I date a Black guy and we have a kid, so I know how to do Black hair. What? I've had a makeup artist said to me, hey, I did Viola Davis and Gabrielle. That bitch, that has nothing to do with me. You need to go and get the tone. You need to go get my color tone, because I'm 5 shades darker than her and 5 shades lighter than her. So what? And I'm gonna tell you, you gonna get labeled a bitch, but they gonna call you one anyway. Myself, I don't like to look like a shiny ass bitch. When I was on SNL, we had a lighting person that was like, put some more light. And I would like, put some more light on me. This is a dark ass stage. I'm a Black bitch. Put the light on me. No, and I'm very verbal. Oh, I look shiny. No, I look darker than what I am. Are you doing that on purpose? Are you trying to make me look dirty? Or is there a reason? Put some light on me. No, I had to learn that shit early too, because I'm a dark-skinned person. And if I wear any kind of light color, that shit flushes me out. So you have to speak up. Some people are scared to speak up because, again, we in this industry that's like, oh, she's hard to work with, whatever. I'm difficult. Yeah, because I'm fucking Leslie Jones. And this is what people need to understand in this business. You are a business.
That's right.
You are a freelancer. When people ask you to work for them, that means that you are letting them have your services for a certain amount of time. In other words, if I had some tractors and you had a field, you are renting my tractors and you're using them to do your field, but those are my tractors. And you know what you're not going to do? You're not going to mistreat my tractors either. You're going to take care of them. And if you up my tractors, you're going to pay for them. Do you get what I'm saying? So when you go on set and you see that, man, I say it straight up. I already know when somebody can't do my makeup. As soon as they go to reach for a brush, I'll be like, you don't know what you're doing. I call my girl. You gotta force them to do it because most people don't and they get away with it. But if you say something, they do something. I mean, at least when I do it, I don't know about everybody else, but when I speak up, I have nappy hair. She can't do my hair. So I have a glam team, and what I do is I bring my glam team in, and they're good at what they do, and they be good at what they do. And then those people go, oh, wow, yeah, this works better. Oh, wow, she looks great. Do you get what I'm saying? So you have to speak up.
I hear you saying, Leslie, like, you DEI down to the glam, and we love you for it. That supports Black businesses. I'm sure Andrew, who is the real FAMU for the culture, got a question.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm loving that you broke it down like that. And more importantly, I'm loving you calling out the fact that your talent is a business. What you bring to the table, as Jay-Z says, I'm a businessman. And I wonder for you, Leslie, as you have increasingly become, I don't know if it's become of you always been outspoken because, I see you through the television screen and the movie theaters. But I'm wondering, as you speak up and speak out in Hollywood, does it cost you?
Yeah.
Because I think you were getting at this. People don't want to be put in discomfort. They don't want to be inconvenienced, which is why we're not choosing to boycott certain industries because that would hit too close to home. Talk a moment just about the fact that you're risking something, if you are, every time you choose to step in the gap.
I'd rather risk that than I'm older now, maybe in my 20s and 30s. I would have been like, yo, I'm down for this. Let's get this done because I'm trying to be in the hustle. But the older I get, the more I think about my parents, the more I think about my grandmother, the more I think about us as a people. And as getting older, I just become so into me being a Black woman. Like, I stopped perming my hair. I started growing I just didn't realize how beautiful Black women really are until you really, after SNL, I dug deep into a Black woman's soul. And it was always there. It was always there. So whenever I'm choosing stuff now, it don't be like I'm making a choice. It's just like, yo, this is what's happening. No, I can't do this because I feel like this. So yes, I do lose some things. But the good thing that I'm noticing is that the people who do know that I'm good and the people that know what integrity and dignity is, they're starting to come back around to that because I'm good at what I do. That's why I have to be super good at what I do. I wouldn't be able to take a stance if I wasn't funny as trust
that's real.
And believe. So that's why I always tell everybody, have some foundation behind your don't be the pig with the stick house. Be the pig with the bricks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and be able to make more bricks,
Yeah.
So yeah, I do.
Because the
I
price
lose
of
a
the
lot.
brick went up.
That's it.
The
That's
more
it.
talented you are.
All that.
Let me ask
all that.
you, we're talking
And the
about
price is the price.
Right. I appreciate that. We're also talking about this boycott, right?
Right.
A lot of things to boycott, and I think as this administration continues to sow chaos, and we see the role of the private sector, and as they fund some of these really draconian initiatives, and who knows what else is coming down the pike, but a lot of us build audience on some of these platforms. For example, Instagram, even Facebook for some people. You have a huge following on Instagram.
Yeah.
I used to, watch your replays when it was about Game of Thrones and all the things you do would go viral on Instagram. But this is owned by Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, who's a part.
Yeah.
We stream content on Amazon. I'm just curious how you plan to navigate that space. Do you plan on keeping your Instagram? And if you get off, where is there to go? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thing too also is I'm a business person also. I can't, I have to learn how to navigate a business too, but it also has to be what people want too. Like if people stop with Instagram and, then I'm gonna find somewhere else, because I was doing that before Instagram and before TikTok and before Twitter. I still was out there. You know what I'm saying? I think we need to start like trying to wane off that shit, because it's not good for us anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just making unnecessary people like famous that are really dangerous. I think we're just so into this social media shit that I don't know. I just feel like if this wasn't around, we would still find a way to communicate with each other. I think we just have to put a little bit more effort into it. And I would find a way. I mean, now they got Substack. Now they got, what is that? Patreon, I mean,
yeah. Well, what are you working on now? Where can the people find you? What can they see you in next? And how are you going to promote it?
So many things. People just came out with it because we're celebrating the SNL 50th.
Yes, congrats.
So I'm on the cover of that. So I just sold a show with Universal. So that's going to be coming out. I'm also getting ready to do a play. My special's coming out. We got a lot of good shit cooking.
What play? Were you in Broadway?
On Broadway. I think she's proprietary. She's keeping it down.
And she had a special she didn't invite us to as much as she said she loved.
Oh my God! Let me tell you.
Imagine that.
Let me tell you.
I ain't get it.
Let me tell you.
Cut her. I'm just
I ain't get it.
Let me tell you what happened. So my special was supposed to be taped in Rancho Cucamonga. So we was about to promote that, right? Rancho Cucamonga was like with it. They was like, "Yo, we gonna pay you $25,000 extra for you to mention Rancho Cucamonga." And then somebody, I guess, on the board went and looked at my material, and they was like, "Oh no, she can't represent Rancho Cucamonga," so they banned me from Rancho Cucamonga.
Oh my
wow! Oh, that's interesting.
So are we boycotting Rancho Cucamonga?
Right. We ain't going.
And then I told him, I said, "So it wasn't the meth? It was." It's not the robberies and that's not what's killing. Oh, okay.
Right.
Me telling a dick joke. Oh, all right.
Wow.
So what happened? We end up.
That's where the invite went.
Yeah. Then we had to
It's in Rancho Cucamonga.
Yeah. We had to redo it, and we end up doing it the night after the election, which was the worst night.
We wouldn't have went.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, nobody wanted. And I was like so mad because I was like, why did y'all pick that date? And they was like, we thought Kamala was going to win.
We definitely all thought we would have RSVP'd that we were going, Leslie, to celebrate with you, and wouldn't have shown up. You would have been done with it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Before we let you go,
so many people.
Before we let you go, I have to just ask. Before we let go. We got to ask, you had referenced your 20-somethings, your 30-somethings. If you could turn back and look at that, sister, for those of us who are, still coming up, the rough side of the mountain,
hilarious.
What advice would you give? How would you ease the soul, the mind, the heart, looking back on your troubles at the time and how you got over?
You know what's so crazy? First of all, I believe in God. I really do believe in a higher power. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I believe in the God that these people believe in, but when you get older, you do start developing a real relationship with him, because you really do. Like, there's times that come where you go, like, I had a surgery and, that type of stuff. People die. You go on your knees and be like, yo, you say you there, like, are you there? And he has proven to me that he's there. Yeah. So that for me is very important, because then you just really hope and faith work in together. You know what I'm saying? But I would tell young folks, which I tell people all the time, if I could quantum leap to myself and say, please don't worry. Like, worry is not going to help the situation at all. It's just like, try to enjoy every stage of your life. Like, enjoy the small apartment, enjoy the raggedy ass car, enjoy the shitty job, enjoy it. Like, there's so many moments in there where you having fun. I think back when I was broke, and the most fun thing I used to do was, like, I had a coupon for El Polo Loquio. and I would go get me some chicken wings.
Not El Pollo Loco.
I would give me some chicken wings and
Yes.
and 2 churros. And let me tell you something. And go home and watch my favorite. And I'm talking about joy. You have to find the little creases because that makes you human. Also, disconnect. Like I literally leave my phones now inside another room because you have
Tiffany.
to disconnect. You have to. I promise you will waste most of your life. And go the outside.
Yeah.
Go outside.
Agreed.
Walk in the park. Look at the sky. And let me tell you something. And I tell youngins this all the time. If you do not appreciate where you are, you will not be given the next step. Until you appreciate, you will not graduate. That's just it.
That's a word.
Let me you made me think of something, Andrew. This is going to be our last question because I know we overtime and Leslie got to go. But just real quick before we let you go, you you work with a lot of other comedians, but also white women comedians. And I know we have talked about on this show, and I've been struggling with this question of the role of white women in our politics. And so my attitude is kind of like, y'all got it. Y'all work it out amongst yourselves. I can't do it. But when you're in those spaces, Leslie, as the sole Black woman in an ensemble cast or on a show like SNL, do you get into those conversations? And what would you say to white women who are complaining about it? And maybe they voted right, but their grandma voted for Trump, or maybe they group chat voted for Trump because the assignment was to bring along your friends. How do you respond to them in this moment right now?
Girl, do you know how much trouble I used to get into? I used to get into so much trouble because they would do things and I'd be like, that's racist. Like I'm that person. I'd be like, no, that's racist. Or a microaggression, like that's racist. What you mean by that? Like I don't give a about calling a bitch out because like you can't fight me. So let's go. Like, what did you mean by that? But what did you mean by that?
Yeah.
But what did you mean by that? But like, no. And then a lot of white women do say things because they think that they're saying like, I love when they say, well, I don't see color. And I'll be like, yes, you do, bitch. I said, you see colors because your outfit is coordinated, right? And let me tell you something. You're going to see my color, bitch, because I'm a beautiful black alabaster. And if you don't see my color, then we have a problem. So you gotta check them. Like there's club owners that are Trumpers, and you gotta check them. You gotta check them. You're wrong. You're wrong. You wrong. There's a club that I don't go to because I don't do this. You don't get to have me and then vote the other way. You don't get to have me and then tell me that I'm a 3/5 of a person, or that I can't take care of my body, or Pastor. I can't get the same pay as you. No, the pay is the pay.
Yeah.
And so I get in trouble all the time, son.
Yeah.
Trust. I get in trouble all the time especially the white men. Because let me tell you something about white men. And I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be done, but I know every Black woman will feel this. You need to understand that white men have a different type of fear for Black women because they was on the tit of our ancestors. We raised them. We're their discipline. When we talk to a white man, have you ever just really honestly talked to a white man and you could see him turning inside? Because they know we right. We your mammy.
You know them too well.
We your mammy. I took a switch to you. I took a switch to your great granddaddy. Like real talk, like there's that connection there.
Yeah.
It really is.
No doubt.
And I think that's their biggest fear is that if we get in control, that we're going to do the same thing that they did. But we don't feel that way. We are a nurturing race. And this is another thing. We don't want to erase them. They want to erase us. That's the problem. We know you want to survive. Go ahead and survive, but leave us the alone.
Right. Yeah. Leave us alone.
Leave us alone.
That's
Leslie with the bar. With the bar.
You do see,
we got a new
She
name
said
of our
the
show.
price is
That's
the
what I
price.
was going to say. The new name of the show
price
is
is
You
the
Do
price.
See Color, bitch.
You do see color, bitch.
Your outfit coordinated?
Yeah. How dare you say you don't see color, bitch? You see it.
Thank you, Leslie. We so appreciate you joining us. This has been
Sorry for the preaching.
Y'all, it's that time. Pass the collection plate. Leslie dropped it because it was hot.
Oh.
And now,
okay.
And now we need our CTAs to take us on out of here. Mine is simple. I'm going to double down on Tiffany's previous comment about going and voting. Please, not because only we asked you, but because hopefully you believe we deserve it.
For the NAACP Image Awards, not for
I
any
knew
elected
somebody was going to pull up a
office at this time.
graphic that had where people
Oh,
got to
that makes
go.
sense.
And
Well,
all
what
the
if
good
you're
stuff.
listening,
listeners.
Andrew?
Oh, for listeners, then give them the website again.
NAACPimageawards.net.
Net.
And we are in the news and information category for podcasts. My
Love
CTA
it.
is please listen to this this mini pod we're about to do on who Black leadership is or who are our Black leaders. I am fascinated by this. I'm wondering if it's going to be a debate. And then also, even though they just rescinded the executive action for federal funding, freezing federal funding, please listen to the solo pod, side pod from yesterday that I did on YouTube. I think that it's still good information regardless because all of that is still on the line. They just paused it for now because y'all paying attention.
So the solo pod dropped Tuesday this week. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Tuesday.
So be sure to go on Native Land. And I'll keep my CTA simple as well. And that is if you are not already subscribed to Native Land, please do that because those numbers matter a great deal. For all you guys who say you love us, you listen to us, tell your friends to subscribe. Make sure you listen. We're trying to offer more content. So the more you listen, the more content we can offer. And the more you support us, the wider our audience can grow and reach, and the bigger this community we can
And
build.
if you're a subscriber, you get special content, right?
Soon.
Eventually.
Soon enough.
Soon.
Yes.
We'll
soon
be
enough.
rolling
Yeah.
out special content for those who subscribe.
Yes. So make sure you do that. And then I will also just say, love on your fur babies because I love the fur babies.
You know, one thing Tiff gonna do is bring up the dogs.
Come on.
They make me so happy. They make me so happy.
Put up
Other
a graphic
animals
of a
with fur,
dog
though.
for her, Nick.
Animals with
We
fur.
are
All
moving
right.
right along.
As you be sure to subscribe, we also want to ask, leave us a review. Please, 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 please be sure to leave us a review because the reviews matter. We're available on all platforms and YouTube, and new episodes, as you all know, drop every Thursday. And like I said, there'll be more content coming your way. Our mini pods drop Monday. You can check out Angela's side pod, not to be confused with her side piece, but her side pod. It dropped Tuesday
My
this
side
week.
piece.
Watch it.
And don't forget to follow
You
us
better
on all
watch
the
it.
platforms. A lot of you guys are asking about Blue Sky. People been tagging me like, Tiffany, when is Angela getting on Blue Sky? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's on Blue Sky.
I am, but I need to get the password.
Okay.
I don't know
All right. So she is on there. Native Land is on there on all our socials. So follow us everywhere you can. Be sure to subscribe to our text or email list on our website at nativelandpod.com. And a quick reminder, when you are sending questions, we do ask that they be video questions. Lolo wanted to make sure I said that. So make sure that when we play videos. And so for us to answer your question, we want to see you, we want to talk to you, and we like to use you guys in our social media as well.
We need to know your name too and where you're from.
Your
We're
name
building
and where you're
community.
from. And quick questions. This can't be Sunday morning, Communion Sunday, where y'all testifying for.
It can, but it's gonna get cut.
Yes.
It's gonna get
Yes.
cut. So make it easy on Nick.
Leave under 60 seconds. Under 60 seconds.
That's
All right. There are 642 days
said not
until
so much.
midterm elections. We are Tiffany Cross, Angela Ryan, Andrew Gillum.
long.
Welcome home, y'all.
Welcome home.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rod Gillum and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth. Even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.